Welcome to the January 8th, 2016 edition of Colorado Inside Out Postgame, a special web exclusive production here on Channel 12. Let's get a quick take on a 9 News report from late last year showing that a considerable amount of the funds used in the recall effort against 3 conservative JeffCo School Board members was directly provided by teachers unions in Colorado. Patricia Calhoun from Westward. For the cynics around this table, this probably wasn't terribly surprising to see his report, but from the investigations that 9 News had to do, it didn't come until late December. What was your reaction?
Well, and let's be clear, from a considerable amount, we're really talking about almost the entire fund minus one kid's allowance, probably. So it took a lot of records, open records requests, but they found out what we basically confirmed suspicions. But money didn't necessarily make the difference here. We have to remember a year ago when we were voting on the education fund in Colorado, there was huge amounts of money for that education proposal, and it sank and sank fast. So in this case, we don't know what would have happened with that recall without the money, but it certainly helped.
Mike Krause from the Independence Institute. This is probably an issue we have to explain to you because you don't know anything really about when it comes to school unions and fights. I'm obviously teasing. The Independence Institute was directly involved in the battle. What was your reaction and then also your feedback from being a part of really in the trenches in this battle?
We're gratified that that the truth came out, even though it was after the fact. We knew this long ago before signatures were even gathered, and so did a lot of people, political insiders who are looking at this really difficult. And the proponents of the recall adamantly denied union involvement. The union adamantly denied involvement in the campaign. In fact, it was a parent-led, JeffCo-led, and we knew that not to be true, but there's just no way to prove it. Complete Colorado broke the original story about the NEA funding through the NEA's own disclosures for their political giving for last year. And then, of course, the JeffCo United was found to have violated Colorado campaign finance law and was forced to disclose its donors. And that's when 9 News did a really excellent piece, by the way, looking at this. And interestingly enough, there were actually people on the campaign who were calling for reporters to be fired at 9 News for just suggesting that there might be union involvement in this campaign. And so 9 News really did an excellent job, even taking the time to hold off on the piece till after the holidays to make sure it got good viewership. Because I'm sure they felt like they were, frankly, lied to when they asked directly, is there union involvement in this, and told no. So we knew this all along, and I think that what's really going to come of this is that moving forward, if you see a recall like this in the future in another school district, it will be assumed that it's union-led. And by the way, it was union-led. It was a union-led recall. We should just call it that.
Eric Sondermann, political analyst. I'd like to take a point that Mike just made, that the next time we have, because there's always going to be a next time when it comes to union and non-union battles when it comes to education, is it going to be much harder for it to sound like teachers and parents and kids making this a grassroots effort when it's really just going to be 2 juggernauts like as it's always been.
And as you point out, there's always going to be a next time for these battles. And unfortunately in Colorado, there's also always going to be a next time with regard to recalls, because we've now unsheathed that weapon and both the left and right are embracing it and using it with too much frequency. To Patty's point, I think Patty is right that we don't know if the recall would have been successful even without this huge money. But I guess I'd have 2 asterisks to that. One is, would it have even started in the first place without knowing that the war chest was there? And there was plenty of uproar among parents out there. They may have had 50% plus one of the votes even without the union money. My question is whether it would have happened and how the case would have been prosecuted without all the union money. None of us are shocked that the unions funded 99.whatever% of this effort. What bothers me, and Mike pointed this out, were the denials, let's call it what it was, the bald-faced lies throughout the campaign that this was going on. They were within their rights to put up whatever money they want, whether it was NEA, CEA, Jefferson County Education Association, but let's at least be a little upfront, a little bit candid, a little less cynical, a little less duplicitous about owning your actions.
Natasha Gardner, senior editor of 5288 magazine. This is great fodder for us at a table like this. We talk about these issues. We were not shocked. We all had faint, what surprises. But when it comes to the public, Does this have a long memory? Do people remember this next time, or is there going to be an effort needed to remind folks, or will folks really even care?
I don't think we're going to need an effort to remind, because I think we've turned a corner with school board elections. They are no longer off the table. I mean, they've always been contentious, sort of in one-off scenarios, or if it was a particularly important, political year, sure. And there are certain, campaign finance rules and things like that that change those elections. But those elections from now on are going to be very, very interesting to people who want to put big money into elections. Some of that's surprising to me. I mean, school board has always been a starting point for politicians. It's a good place to get your feet wet, see where your base is, see what your policies are, see how you can raise money. And now we're just going to move that up a little bit. So even if people aren't aware of it, I think it's going to be straight in their face. And this is the time for us to take a look and say, all right, how do we make this as transparent as possible? What kind of rules and regulations do we need to put in place to make sure that these elections focus on what they're supposed to be about, which is the schools and the kids?
Maybe I'm showing my cynical side, but the election being about the schools and the kids may be a little bit further down the road than we would like to see. That is all the time we have for Colorado Inside Postgame this week. Leave us a comment and tell us what you think. For everyone here at CPT12.org, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching.